And now, from PAX TV Studio 611, your host, Richard Thomas.
Good evening, and welcome to It's a Miracle. Tonight's show is full of love, courage, faith, and hope, all of the necessary ingredients in a miracle. We begin with a father's unconditional love for his son, a love so strong that it transformed their relationship and gave new meaning to their lives. Once you've met them, you'll never again doubt that love can move mountains and create miracles. While some fathers push their sons to follow in their footsteps, 59-year-old Dick Hoyt pushes his son Rick to find his own joy, happiness, and meaning in life.
When Rick was being born, the umbilical cord got twisted around his neck, which caused a lack of oxygen to Rick's brain, which caused brain damage, which is cerebral palsy. And we took Rick to the specialist, and they said, forget Rick, put him away, put him in an institution. He's going to be nothing but a vegetable for the rest of his life.
But in 1962, the Hoyts had no intention of abandoning their son.
We didn't want to put Rick away. He was our baby, he was our child. And we wanted to bring him up and include him.
And include him they did. Even though he couldn't walk or talk, his brothers, Rob and Russ Hoyt, never saw anything odd about Rick.
Growing up with a person with disabilities, I think you're a lot more in tune with it, and you don't think of it as being different or as a problem.
What was interesting to me was that I didn't realize our family was different because Rick was a part of it. It was more, when you would look at other families or meet other people, it's like, well, you know, don't you have somebody in a wheelchair too?
As Rick got older, you could look into his eyes and you could see that he was listening and he knew what was going on.
And he could communicate by nodding or shaking his head. At first, it was a matter of 20 questions. But then his brother Russ came up with an ingenious idea.
We started by taking the alphabet and breaking it in half. So it was before M or after M, and it took forever. So we broke it down even more. We said, okay, let's use the vowels. There's sort of natural breaks in there. We'll say, is it the A section, the E section? And Rick would nod his head, so if he said yes at the I section, would say, is it I itself? J, K, L, M, N. And if he shook his head yes at any one of those letters, then that would be the letter, and then you'd go to the next letter. And if you get two letters, you know, M and O, you'd start to guess. Is it mom? Do you want to say a message to mom? Is it money? Because you're trying to get my money, which I'm not going to give you. You know, stuff like that.
But officials outside the family couldn't speak the Hoyt language, and they refused to let Rick attend public school.
They thought he was deaf. They said that he wouldn't be able to learn, that he'd never be able to comprehend. These people thought that we were answering for Rick. He wasn't answering for himself.
But the Hoyts would not be deterred. They raised money to develop a computer that would speak for Rick. Everyone anxiously waited to hear what his first words would be.
And naturally, his mom's saying it's going to be hi, Mom, and I'm saying it's going to be hi, Dad. Well, the Boston Bruins were going for the Stanley Cup, and the very first words Rick ever said was, "Go Bruins."
The Hoyts had always known that their son enjoyed athletics. Now they knew that he loved them. And one event in particular started a fire that is still burning today. A charity road race had been organized to help a paralyzed lacrosse player.
He wrote on his computer, and he said, "Dad, I want to run in that race." And at the time, I was 40 years old, and I was not a runner. And that's all we had at the time was a Mulholland wheelchair, and we had a hard time pushing him in it, never mind running with it. But we went down to the race, and it was a 5-mile race, and they gave Rick and I the number 00. When we came across the finish line, the gym teacher's wife took a picture, and it's the biggest smile you ever saw in your life.
Instantly, Dick and Rick knew this was their destiny.
When we got home that night, Rick wrote on his computer, "Dad, when I'm running, it feels like I'm not even handicapped." So we finally found a sport that Rick could enjoy just like everybody else.
Since then, despite objections from other runners, the Hoyts have run 59 marathons worldwide, including 19 Bostons. They have run without taking a day off across the entire United States, coast to coast. They don't intend to stop.
And this will be our 20th straight Boston Marathon. So we've come a long way, and we've been able to break down a lot of barriers along that way.
In 1984, Team Hoyt decided to raise the bar and enter a triathlon: swimming, biking, and running. Dick not only swam, he towed his son. He not only biked, he balanced his son. And of course, when they ran, they passed competitors right and left.
At the time, we committed ourselves to our first triathlon 9 months down the road. I did not know how to swim. I hadn't been on a bike since I was 6 years old. And I'll never forget the first day that I went down to the lake and jumped in. I sank. I says, oh no. I said, I gotta do a triathlon in 9 months and I can't even swim 5 feet. So every day I come home from work, I was able to go in the lake and I was able to swim a little bit further and a little bit further.
Once again, other competitors had to be convinced. But once they got past their first triathlon, skepticism turned to admiration. But competing is just one small part of their success.
Every weekend we'd go to a different town and a different race, and people would come over and they started talking to us, and they could see that Rick had a personality and a sense of humor, and he loved being in the middle of running with all these other people. And that's our whole story, is educating people that people with disabilities should be included in being out there, enjoying running in races and enjoying everybody, just like everybody else.
While the public was being educated, so was Rick. First, he amazed everyone by graduating from high school. 9 years later, he did what most people thought impossible. He graduated from Boston University with a degree in special education.
Team Hoyt Jr.
Rick is now employed by Boston College, developing computers for children with cerebral palsy.
W.
So does that transition seem pretty good for you the way it is?
But his computer knowledge runs a distant second to his attitude. More than anything, Rick Hoyt wants people like himself treated with respect. Dr. Philip DiMattia is director of the campus School of Education.
He gave us some advice. He said 2 things. 1, expect a lot from these children. A lot isn't expected of them by tradition. People tend to underestimate what they're capable of doing. So Rick says, you want me to be a consultant? Expect a lot.
Who would have expected that one day Rick would live in an apartment of his own? But he does. And none of it would have been possible if his family hadn't seen the great potentials in this young man. And if Dad could ask his son to grade him as a father?
I'd love to hear Rick say that I'm a good dad.
I love you, Dad.
I love you too, Rick.
To some, the father and son running combination is still a mystery. Isn't this simply a man who is running and a son who is merely riding? The operative term is us.
It is us when we run, because I wouldn't be out there running if it wasn't for Rick. He asked me to run in that very first race, and I was not a runner. You think I'd be crazy enough to be out there doing marathons and Ironman triathlons and running and biking across the United States? No, it was his idea and his thoughts. And he, to me, is the athlete. He's the competitor. I'm just out there loaning him my arms and my legs. He's the one that drives me so that we're able to compete at the level that we compete at.